Hello, welcome back to the European Parliament for Talking Europe. In this part of our programme, we are looking closer at Emmanuel Macron's European wish list. In a major speech right here in Strasbourg, he talked about everything from climate policy to Russia, Brexit and much more. Was it a realistic programme for the 6-month-long French presidency of the EU Council? Or perhaps an election campaign speech before the president has even declared that he is standing for re-election in France's presidential election in April. Well, with us to talk through some key points, a leading member of President Macron's Renew Europe group at the Parliament, a former mayor of Strasbourg, Fabienne Keller. Hello, thanks for being with us. Hi. I thought we'd start off for you and for our viewers just with one clip from Emmanuel Macron's speech where he's talking about Europe reasserting its values. Take a listen.
Rule of law is of the utmost value, and we must work to reconvince all those who have strayed from it. I wish for us to consolidate our European values, which unify us, make us proud, make us strong. It's 20 years since we created our Charter of Fundamental Rights, which notably cemented the abolition of the death penalty in all EU states. I want us to update this charter, notably to be more explicit about environmental protection, or, for example, recognition of the right to abortion.
Just a very small excerpt there, of course, of Emmanuel Macron's 40-minute or so speech here in Strasbourg. Fabienne Keller, there was so much in this speech. Was it really a programme for the 6-month-long EU Council presidency, or, as many say, Emmanuel Macron putting himself forward as I'm almost the leader of Europe?
It's of course for 6 months presidency, but it has been worked since 18 months or 2 years, and the administration is preparing this big moment. Macron is convinced that Europe is powerful, is important. He did make a lot of proposals in 2017 in the presidential campaign in France. Since then, he has been very active, for example, to buy the vaccines together in April 2020, to build the recovery plan, to work on a common European defense, for example. So he has been active. So it's kind of a very important moment in general involvement that is a characteristic, a mark of his mandate.
Just obviously looking at the timing of this, the presidency of the EU Council coming at the same time as a French presidential election in April. Now, the President and the government could have asked for this EU presidency to take place later on to avoid a clash. Some accuse him of using this as a campaign platform. I think, you know, in Europe we cannot take into account the campaigns in each of the 27 member states. It's like this. Of course, it's a wonderful opportunity for France, so why delay it? And then it would have been, you know, another problem with another national campaign. So it's there. He's prepared, as I said. He manages very naturally, because for him, Europe and France, it's the same interest, the same track. And so he showed us how he masters the European files and issues. So you don't see a clash. We have to say for our viewers, Emmanuel Macron, not officially a candidate at this point. Fabienne Keller, he is going to declare, isn't he? This isn't someone who just wants to be president for one period, one term. When is he going to declare? Oh, I have no idea when, but I know that he is very, totally, I must say, involved in his duty, and that, you know, to restructure a country, to prepare the future, for example, in the environmental issue or sovereignty issues, you need to have time, and he needs 5 more years to finish his job. So I don't know when, but I wish he will be candidate. I'm quite sure he will. All right, let's have a look at some of the specific issues that he looked at in that speech on rule of law, which we mentioned in that excerpt there at the start. Emmanuel Macron spoke a lot about defending rule of law, but he was criticised by several of your MEP colleagues in their responses for, as they see it, not taking action against other member states, Poland, Hungary, which do have EU rule of law proceedings lodged against them. But those proceedings going nowhere. It is blocked at the EU Council level. President Macron now presiding over that. Is he going to make some moves?
He is determined for that. But of course there are rules in Europe. And as you know, the Council is deciding with unanimity. And of course, the two member states who are concerned, Hungary and Poland, are against. So he was able, with the help of Angela Merkel and the other member states, except those two, to include a conditionality. That means no European money if you do not imply the rule of law, that is independence of justice, executive power and legislative power, freedom for press. It's very important to have this principle respected. Then it means that if the court, the European Court of Justice decides, and it seems to be in that direction next month, then the money will not be given to those two member states, Hungary and Poland, that are under Article 7 procedure. So the Council did make a step, but you know, we are in some way weak because we are democratic. What was planned in Article 7? Discussion with the member state not respecting rule of law. Discussion doesn't bring us anywhere. So this conditionality is an efficient tool, and Mr. Macron told us he will implement it as soon as the Court of Justice of Luxembourg gives its okay.
Let's look at another big issue that President Macron has spoken about here and previously, reforming the rules of the Schengen free travel zone. He talked about reinforcing the external EU borders. Just interested to know what this means, because certain EU states have been building physical walls and barriers on their borders, thinking about those who have borders with Belarus, for example, recently. But many people calling not for reinforced security, not for what some call a fortress Europe, but for actually safe and legal paths to migration for the people who are coming up to these borders at this point. There are those who say, look, people aren't left with much choice than to try and get in by irregular means.
He is proposing a very balanced solution. That is to make the frontiers respected, but to apply also at the same time the rules, the humanitarian rules that are the Geneva Convention, right to get, to ask for asylum. So in this purpose, he proposes a political governance of Schengen. And I can testify that this is missing today because I am very involved in those files of migration and asylum. Not to handle it at the national level in each member state or at a technical level, but at a political level, because migration is a European issue.
And President Macron spoke about how the European Commission has put forward proposals for an EU-wide migration pact. Can we expect President Macron to make a big effort to unblock this migration situation, get the 27 to agree on a migration strategy?
To finalize the package, maybe not, because it requires more time, but to make big progresses, yes. Political governance of Schengen, we talked about it. Special force, active force, in case of there is an emergency at a frontier, specific frontier. This is the example of Belarus that led to this proposal. Improve convergence in our asylum procedures, because now each member state is doing independently its procedures. We have this quite interesting asylum agency that has a new mandate now since January 1st, so they can better make member states work better together and to be sure that an asylum decision in one member state would be the same decision in another one, which is not the case today.
Okay, let's talk about a foreign policy issue that's very present right now, relations with Russia. Of course, this huge military build-up of Russian troops on the border with Ukraine. President Macron has said that Europe needs to stand up to President Putin. Is it possible this kind of talk could perhaps inflame those tensions that we're already seeing?
No, it cannot. But it's Europe saying clearly how strong we are together and that we want to defend our common borders, our territory, our sovereignty, with all our common strength. There was a summit, a meeting of the Minister of Defense a few days ago in Brest, and that's very important, to work on European defense. How can we better work together, also coordinating with NATO, of course, but clearly because we have threats like the Russian threat. That's a war threat at the Ukrainian border, but there are also cyber threats that can be very dangerous.
Just one thing, because we don't have much time left, but something that perhaps surprised me a little bit personally. There was quite a long mention of relations between the EU and the UK post-Brexit, and President Macron really seeming to say that he doesn't trust the current UK government under Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is looking shaky at home at the moment. Is the French government hoping that there's going to be a new British Prime Minister for them to negotiate with?
The French government has not to decide in the place of the British people, but we are profoundly sad that the British left us here in January 2020, just before the virus came out, and we are neighbors, we are friends, we have to have pacific and nice and constructive relations. So we cannot deal about fishermen, about migration with, just bad words. We have to meet again and find a new way to discuss and build solutions.
Okay, Fabienne Keller, I'm sure we'll keep talking about that issue and plenty more in the future. Thank you for being on our programme.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to you for watching as well. Hope to see you very soon on France 24.